Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where forgotten civilizations, unexplained wonders, and ancient secrets come back to life. Ready to unravel the mystery? Let's begin the journey. Beneath the quiet landscape of Japan's Tochigi Prefecture lies a hidden world carved from stone. Known as the Oya Caves, this massive underground network is officially celebrated as a historic stone quarry. But as we look closer at its incredible scale and the precision of its walls, a different story begins to emerge, one of advanced engineering that seems to challenge its simple explanation. Before we can begin to unravel a mystery, we must first understand the story that is told, the version of events accepted by history and presented to the world. And so, our journey into the enigma of the Oya Caves begins not with speculation, but with the established facts. We travel to a quiet, unassuming part of Japan, to the Tochigi Prefecture, a region known more for its rolling green hills and peaceful countryside than for any grand historical monuments. Here, nestled within this serene landscape, is the town of Oya. On the surface, it seems like many other rural Japanese towns, a place where life moves at a slower, more deliberate pace. But beneath the surface, quite literally, lies the subject of our investigation. The entrance to what is now known as the Oya History Museum is surprisingly modest. It doesn't scream of ancient wonders or untold secrets. It looks, for all intents and purposes, like the entrance to a well-maintained local attraction. But the moment you step through that entrance, the world changes completely. The warmth of the sun vanishes, replaced by a sudden, deep chill that seems to rise from the very earth itself. The air grows still and heavy, carrying the faint, clean scent of damp stone. You are no longer in the Japan of today, but in a vast, silent, subterranean world that feels both ancient and alien. What we are looking at, according to all official records, is a former stone quarry. The site, now preserved as the Oya History Museum, is celebrated as a testament to Japan's industrial heritage. It is a place where, for centuries, miners toiled to extract a unique and valuable type of stone. After its active quarrying days ended in the late 20th century, the site was transformed. Instead of miners with their tools, it now welcomes tourists, artists, and filmmakers, all drawn to its unique and dramatic atmosphere. The vast, empty chambers have become a stage for the extraordinary. Concerts have been held here, the music echoing in a way that is impossible to replicate anywhere else on Earth. Film crews have used its otherworldly backdrop to shoot scenes for action movies and fantasy epics, turning its stone halls into alien planets or secret underground lairs. It's a popular venue for weddings, with couples exchanging vows in a setting that feels both eternal and deeply profound. This modern identity is part of its official story, a clever and beautiful repurposing of a retired industrial site. It is presented as a success story, a piece of local history preserved and given new life for future generations to enjoy. It is a source of pride for the region, a symbol of human industry and ingenuity. And yet, this modern sanitized identity as a museum and event space, while impressive, only serves to mask the sheer mind-boggling reality of the place itself. Calling it a museum barely does it justice. To truly understand this place, you have to grasp its unbelievable scale. The numbers alone are difficult to process. The main public area of the quarry covers an area of over 20,000 square meters. To put that into perspective, it's a space roughly the size of a professional football stadium, all hidden deep underground. And that is just one part of a much larger network of interconnected tunnels and chambers that spread out like the roots of a colossal unseen tree. As you walk through these immense caverns, any sense of normal human proportion is lost. The ceilings soar high above, sometimes reaching heights of more than 30 meters, or nearly 100 feet. You could comfortably fit entire multi-story buildings within these chambers and still have room to spare. Great thick pillars of stone, square and solid, were left behind by the miners, marching in rows through the gloom. They weren't placed there for aesthetic reasons. They are the very bones of the mountain, left intentionally to support the colossal weight of the earth above. Standing at the base of one of these pillars, you feel impossibly small, a temporary visitor in a hall built for giants. The ground isn't level. It slopes and drops away into deeper, darker sections. Staircases carved directly from the living rock lead you further down into the earth, where the temperature becomes even colder and the silence more profound. The light from the modern installations barely seems to penetrate the darkness. It catches the edges of the walls, revealing strange, uniform patterns carved into the stone, before being swallowed by the immense empty space. This emptiness is a key part of the experience. Unlike a cathedral or a palace, which is filled with decorations and objects, the Oya caves are defined by what is not there, by the millions of tons of stone that were painstakingly removed. The sheer volume of the void is what creates the sense of awe. It's a man-made space that feels as grand and imposing as any natural wonder. You can shout and your voice will travel, but it doesn't echo in a chaotic way. Instead, the sound seems to roll along the stone surfaces before fading into the vastness, a testament to the strange acoustic properties of these massive, sculpted halls. This overwhelming sense of scale is the first crack in the simple story of a quarry. It forces you to ask a fundamental question. How is this even possible? A space this vast wasn't carved in a day, or even a decade. The official history of Oya stretches back centuries, to a time long before the advent of modern machinery. According to historians and the museum's own records, the story of large-scale quarrying at Oya begins in Japan's Edo period, which started in the early 17th century. This was a pivotal time in Japanese history. After a long period of civil war, the country was unified under the Tokugawa shogunate. A long peace began, and with it came a boom in construction. Cities were expanded, castles were fortified, and temples were built. This era of prosperity created a massive demand for building materials, and the unique stone found in the Oya region became highly sought after. For the next 300 years, the mountain was slowly and methodically hollowed out. The official narrative paints a picture of incredible human endurance. It describes generations of miners working in difficult, dangerous conditions, armed with little more than simple hand tools. The primary instrument was a type of pickaxe known as a tsuruha. The work was grueling and relentless. Miners would enter the cold darkness with only the faint light of a small lamp, spending their days chipping away at the stone face, block by block. The process was slow. They would carefully carve deep grooves into the rock, then use wedges to split off massive, rectangular blocks. These blocks, weighing hundreds of pounds each, would then have to be hauled out of the mine, often by hand or with the help of simple carts. It was a testament to the patience and physical strength of the workers. The history continues from the Edo period through the Meiji Restoration in the late 19th century, when Japan began to rapidly modernize. The demand for Oya stone grew even greater as Western-style buildings began to appear in cities like Tokyo. The quarrying operations expanded, becoming more organized but still relying heavily on manual labor. The most famous use of the stone from this era is undoubtedly its inclusion in the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo, designed by the legendary American architect Frank Lloyd Wright in the 1920s. He specifically chose Oya stone for its unique texture and its ability to be intricately carved, using it for decorative elements throughout the building. This fact is a cornerstone of the official history, a documented, verifiable link between the Oya quarry and the wider world of modern architecture. The quarry remained active until 1986, when the last of the large-scale operations ceased. By then, modern machinery had long replaced the simple hand tools of the past, but the legacy of those early centuries of manual labor is what defines the vast underground chambers we see today. For all this effort spanning generations, the prize was something unique to this very region. A special kind of stone known simply as Oya stone. The entire existence of this colossal underground world comes down to the geological properties of the rock itself. Oya stone, or Oyaishi in Japanese, is not granite or marble. It is a type of volcanic tuff, formed from the ash and rock fragments that were spewed from a massive volcanic eruption millions of years ago. Over time, this ash was compressed, forming a rock that is relatively soft, lightweight, and surprisingly easy to carve. Its porous nature gives it a unique, warm texture, often a soft gray-green color with flecks of different minerals. But its most prized quality, especially in a country like Japan where fires have historically devastated entire cities made of wood and paper, is its remarkable resistance to heat. Oya stone is naturally fireproof. This made it the perfect material for building kura, traditional Japanese storehouses where families would keep their most valuable possessions: silk kimonos, important documents, and family heirlooms. In the event of a fire, the wooden city might burn, but the stone kura would remain standing, protecting its contents. This practical, life-saving property drove the demand for the stone for centuries. It was used for everything from the foundations of buildings and the walls of castles to smaller, everyday items like paving stones, lanterns, and even gravestones. The ease with which it could be carved also made it a favorite for decorative purposes. Its soft nature allowed artisans to create intricate patterns and sculptures, something that would be far more difficult and expensive with harder stones. So, the official narrative is clear and logical. There was a unique and valuable natural resource. There was a high demand for it due to its practical and aesthetic properties. And there was a dedicated workforce willing to spend centuries extracting it using the tools of their time. And so, the official story is complete. We have a specific place, a tangible product, a documented history, and a clear purpose. It's a neat, logical explanation for the existence of the Oya Caves. A simple quarry, a useful stone, a history of hard work. It all fits together perfectly. But as we stand here, in the cold silence of these halls, surrounded by these colossal, precisely carved walls, one can't help but feel that perhaps this neat explanation is a little too simple. The sheer perfection and immense scale of it all seems to whisper of something more. The official story, as we've seen, is neat and well packaged. It provides a logical beginning, a practical purpose, and a documented history that stretches across centuries. It presents the Oya Caves as a grand but understandable feat of human industry, a monument to the endurance of generations of Japanese miners. It is a story that satisfies our need for order and reason. And for many visitors who walk through these cold, cavernous halls, that story is enough. They marvel at the scale, take their photos, and leave with a sense of appreciation for a piece of local heritage. But for those of us who look a little deeper, for those who are willing to question the comfortable narrative, this is precisely where the real journey begins. Because when you stand in the immense silence of Oya and truly observe the evidence left behind in the stone, you start to notice cracks in that official story. They begin as small, nagging questions, but they grow and multiply until they form a paradox so profound that it threatens to shatter the entire historical foundation. The first and most overwhelming of these cracks is a simple matter of mathematics and logic: the sheer, unbelievable volume of the place. We are told that this vast underground world was carved out over centuries using primarily manual labor. The image is one of men with simple pickaxes, the tsuruha, chipping away at the rock face day after day, year after year. It's a romantic and heroic image, one that celebrates human spirit and perseverance. But when you move beyond the romance and confront the reality of the numbers, the picture becomes far more challenging. Let's try to visualize the task. The main chamber alone is over 20,000 square meters. The ceilings in many places are 30 meters high. A simple calculation reveals that millions upon millions of cubic meters of stone were removed from just this one section. And remember, this is only the part of the complex open to the public. The full network of tunnels is said to be many times larger, a labyrinthine system burrowing deep into the mountain. The total weight of the excavated stone would be measured in the millions of tons. Now let's consider the tools. A single miner with a pickaxe can only remove so much stone in a day. It is a slow, painstaking process. To achieve a project of this magnitude, you would need an enormous workforce not just for a few years but sustained over centuries. Thousands of men would have had to be working continuously. This raises immediate logistical questions. Where did this massive permanent workforce live? How were they fed, paid, and organized? A project on this scale would be the equivalent of building one of the great cathedrals of Europe, an undertaking that would have dominated the local economy and culture for generations. But even if we accept the idea of a massive, dedicated workforce, the next challenge is even greater: the problem of removal. It's one thing to chip a block of stone from a wall deep underground. It's another thing entirely to get it out of the mine. Each block of Oya stone could weigh hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. Hauling these colossal weights up steep, narrow tunnels from depths of 30 meters or more, using only muscle power, ropes, and perhaps simple wooden carts, seems almost impossibly inefficient. The energy and time spent just transporting the stone out of the mine would have been monumental. Modern quarries use massive trucks, cranes, and conveyor belts to handle such logistics. The ancient miners of Oya supposedly did it all by hand. The official story simply states that it was done, without delving into the staggering logistical nightmare it would have represented. It asks us to accept that this centuries-long, highly inefficient process was somehow sustainable and productive enough to create a space that rivals modern engineering projects. The sheer volume of material removed, when set against the primitive technology supposedly used to do it, creates a deep and troubling imbalance. While human endurance is capable of incredible things, there is a point where the scale of an achievement so far outstrips the known means of its creation that we are forced to ask: is the official story missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? Could this vast space truly have been created this way? Or are we looking at the result of a process far more efficient and organized than history admits? The challenge of volume is immense, but it is only the first paradox. The second, and perhaps the more visually compelling, is found not in the size of the space, but in the details of its creation and the strange and puzzling precision of the marks left on the walls. As you walk through the dimly lit corridors of Oya, your eyes are naturally drawn to the stone surfaces. And what you see there is deeply unsettling to the official narrative. The walls are not rough, chaotic, or pockmarked, as you would expect from centuries of random strikes by thousands of different miners with handheld pickaxes. Instead, the surfaces are covered in long, uniform, and almost perfectly parallel grooves. It looks as though a giant comb has been dragged across the stone, leaving behind a distinct ribbed texture that runs in unbroken lines from high up on the walls all the way down to the floor. The pattern is often described as resembling corduroy fabric, and the comparison is remarkably accurate. The ridges are evenly spaced, the grooves are of a consistent depth, and the lines themselves are incredibly straight, maintaining their parallel formation over vast vertical and horizontal distances. This level of precision is profoundly difficult to explain with simple hand tools. Think about the process. A worker striking a wall with the pickaxe will leave a gouge. The angle, depth, and shape of that gouge will vary with every single swing. It depends on the worker's strength, his height, his fatigue, and the specific angle of his attack. If you have hundreds of different workers, each with their own unique way of swinging a tool, working over hundreds of years, the resulting surface should be a chaotic tapestry of overlapping, randomly oriented marks. Should look like a mess. But that is not what we see at Oya. We see order. We see consistency. We see a level of uniformity that suggests a single, controlled process. Are we truly to believe that every single miner who worked here was trained to strike the stone with the exact same rhythm, angle, and pressure as every other worker, for centuries on end, to create this flawlessly consistent pattern? It defies logic and our understanding of human nature. The precision goes beyond just the tool marks. Look at the corners where the walls meet the ceilings, or where the great square pillars rise from the floor. The angles are often remarkably clean and sharp. The pillars themselves are not crudely shaped lumps, They are well defined, with flat faces and straight edges. It all points to a method of stone removal that was far more controlled and systematic than simple brute force. The appearance of the walls has led many to question the tools themselves. These marks look less like the impact of a pickaxe and more like the tracks left by some kind of guided machinery. This doesn't mean we have to jump to conclusions about futuristic lasers or alien technology. The machine could have been a sophisticated, yet understandable mechanical device now lost to time. Perhaps it was a massive human-powered saw with multiple blades that cut grooves into the stone. Or maybe it was a type of guided planer that was dragged along a track to shave the stone away in uniform layers. Whatever it was, the evidence carved into the walls themselves strongly suggests a technology that was more advanced and more precise than the simple pickaxes of the official story. The puzzling precision of the workmanship is a direct visual contradiction to the accepted narrative. It shifts the mystery from a question of how much to a question of how. And this leads us to the next, even more profound crack in the story. If the sheer volume challenges our understanding of logistics, and the precision challenges our understanding of the tools, the next anomaly challenges our understanding of history itself. It is perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence against the official narrative, precisely because it is an absence, the profound and deafening silence in the historical record. Japan is a nation with a rich and deeply ingrained tradition of meticulous record-keeping. For centuries, events of significance were carefully documented. Imperial courts kept detailed chronicles. Buddhist temples maintained extensive records of their construction, finances, and important events. Wealthy families kept journals and ledgers that have survived for generations. Shoguns and local lords issued official decrees for any major public work. There is a deep cultural respect for history and documentation. Given this context, a construction project on the monumental scale of the Oya Caves should have left a massive paper trail. This was not a small local mine. It was an industrial undertaking that lasted for centuries and would have been one of the largest and most significant engineering projects in the entire region, if not the country. So where are the records? Where are the official government commissions ordering the excavation? Where are the tax ledgers showing the sale of millions of tons of stone? Where are the payment records for the thousands of workers who supposedly toiled here for generations? Where are the architectural plans or engineering diagrams that would have been necessary to ensure the structural stability of such a massive underground complex? The answer, astonishingly, is that they don't seem to exist. While there are scattered references to Oya stone being used in various buildings, there are no great chronicles celebrating the creation of the quarry itself. There are no detailed accounts describing the methods used, the challenges overcome, or the master engineers who designed it. We have no diaries from the miners, no folk songs about the Great Dig, no epic poems dedicated to the hollowing of the mountain. For a project of this significance, the historical record is strangely and unnervingly quiet. It's as if this colossal undertaking happened in a historical vacuum, deliberately kept off the books and out of the official histories. This absence of evidence is, in itself, a powerful form of evidence. It suggests that the story of Oya may not be the straightforward tale of industrial heritage we are told. Anonymity on this scale is rarely an accident. It is often a sign of secrecy. Forces us to ask why. Why would a project of such magnitude not be celebrated? Why would its history be so poorly documented in a culture that documents everything? Was it because the true nature of the work was something to be hidden? Was it a secret project, undertaken by a group that operated outside the normal channels of government and society? The silence in the archives is a mystery as deep and vast as the caves themselves. And it leads us to our final paradox, a question that moves beyond the physical and historical, and into the realm of intent and design. This leads us to the last and perhaps most subtle crack in the official narrative, a question not of how it was built, but why it was built in this particular way. The official purpose was to extract stone. In a typical quarrying operation, The goal is to remove the desired material as efficiently as possible. The shape of the resulting space is usually a secondary concern, often left irregular and chaotic, dictated only by the location of the best stone veins. But Oya feels different, feels designed. As you walk through the complex, you realize the pillars left behind are not randomly placed. They are arranged in a surprisingly orderly fashion, creating what feel like vast, deliberate halls, long aisles, and distinct chambers. They give the space a sense of architecture, an intentionality that seems to go far beyond the simple functional need of holding up the roof. Why go to the trouble of carving out such elegant, well-defined spaces if your only goal is to get rock out of the ground? This sense of intentional design is amplified by the strange and unexplained acoustic properties of the caves. Many visitors, musicians, and sound engineers who have experienced the space have noted that it doesn't behave like a typical large, stone room. In a normal cave or cavern, sound waves would bounce off the hard surfaces in a chaotic manner, creating a confusing and muddy echo, or reverb. But in the main hall of Oya, the sound is surprisingly clear. A voice can carry over long distances without becoming garbled. Music performed here has a unique resonancia, richness, and depth, but with a strange clarity. Was this just a happy accident of the quarrying process, a coincidental byproduct of the shape of the rooms and the texture of the walls? Or was the acoustic environment an intentional part of the design? Did the builders understand how to shape a space to control sound, and if so, for what purpose? A quarry has no need for concert hall acoustics. This opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. If the space was acoustically engineered, it suggests a purpose far more sophisticated than simple mining. It points towards a place designed for gatherings, for ceremonies, for rituals where the clear transmission of a voice or the resonance of a chant would be of paramount importance. The strategic placement of the pillars, the grand scale of the halls, and the unique acoustic properties all combine to create a powerful impression. This was more than just a mine. It was a space built with a purpose that transcended mere utility. It feels like a temple, a fortress, or a great assembly hall, hidden from the world deep within the earth. Each of these paradoxes, the impossible volume, the puzzling precision, the historical silence, and the intentional design, stands as a direct challenge to the official story. Taken alone, any one of them might be explainable. But when you view them together, they form a powerful and cohesive argument that something is fundamentally wrong with the accepted narrative. They tell us that the story of the Oya caves is far from over. The comfortable history is just the surface layer, and beneath it lies a mystery that is deeper, older, and far more complex than we can imagine. The paradoxes of Oya are profound. The impossible scale, the baffling precision, the historical silence, and the sense of intentional design all combine to create a powerful argument against the simple official story of a quarry. It is a compelling mystery, one that leaves us standing in the cold, silent darkness of the caves with more questions than answers. But what if Oya is not an isolated anomaly? What if the strangeness we find here is not unique to this quiet corner of Japan? Often, the significance of a mystery is revealed not by looking closer at the object itself, but by looking outward, by searching for echoes and reflections in other parts of the world. When we take a step back and view the Oya caves not as a singular Japanese puzzle, but as a potential piece in a much larger, global enigma, the mystery deepens exponentially. It ceases to be a local curiosity and becomes a potential clue to a forgotten chapter of human history. The patterns we see at Oya, it turns out, are disturbingly familiar. They appear in other ancient sites, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, creating a web of connections that is as fascinating as it is inexplicable. Our first stop on this global journey takes us across the East China Sea, to a place that bears such a striking resemblance to Oya that it defies all notions of coincidence. In 1992, in a rural part of Zhejiang Province, China, a local villager named Wu Anai made a decision born of simple curiosity. For generations, the people of his village had known of several small, deep ponds scattered across their landscape. They were considered unremarkable, bottomless pools that the locals used for washing clothes and fishing. Wu'an'ai, however, had an idea. He wondered what would happen if he simply pumped one of them dry. He bought a water pump and over the course of 17 days, drained the entire pond. What he and his fellow villagers discovered at the bottom left them, and later the world, in a state of shock. It was not a natural pond at all. Beneath the water lay the entrance to a massive man-made cavern, a colossal underground space carved with breathtaking precision from the solid bedrock. This discovery led to the pumping of other nearby ponds, and soon an entire subterranean complex was revealed. 24 hand-carved grottos, all connected by a labyrinth of tunnels and halls, an underground city of stone. This is the mystery of the Longyu Caves. And the moment you see the images, the connection to Oya is immediate and undeniable. The walls of Longyu are not rough or crudely hewn. They are covered in the exact same distinctive pattern of parallel grooves we see in Japan. It's as if the very same giant celestial comb was dragged across the stone here, thousands of kilometers away. The tool marks are uniform, evenly spaced, and run in unbroken lines from the soaring ceilings down to the floors. The similarity is not merely close or suggestive. In many places it is virtually identical. The parallels do not end with the tool marks. The scale of the Longyu complex is staggering, with each cave averaging over 1,000 square meters in area and reaching heights of up to 30 meters, numbers that eerily echo the dimensions of Oya. The pillars left behind to support the ceilings are not random. They are uniform and strategically placed, just as they are in Japan. The floors of the caves and the walls are often sloped at a consistent angle of around 45 degrees, suggesting a systematic and planned method of excavation. And then there is the most profound parallel of all, the same deafening silence in the historical record. Like Oya, the Longyu Caves are a complete historical blank. There is not a single mention of their construction in any ancient Chinese text, no record of the massive workforce required, no explanation for their purpose, and no clue as to who built them or when. China, like Japan, is a civilization with one of the longest and most detailed written histories on Earth. For a project of such monumental scale, the removal of nearly 1 million cubic meters of stenito vanish from all historical accounts is an anomaly of the highest order. The fact that this same historical amnesia surrounds two almost visually identical sites in two different countries is a coincidence that strains credulity to its breaking point. So what are we to make of this? The mainstream explanation is that it is a case of convergent development, that two independent cultures, faced with similar rock types, simply develop the same quarrying techniques by chance. But this explanation feels weak. The specific pattern of the tool marks is too unique, too idiosyncratic, to be easily dismissed as a random coincidence. It's like finding two people on opposite sides of the world who have, without any contact, developed the exact same highly unusual style of handwriting. It is possible, but it is extraordinarily improbable. The mystery of Longyu and Oya, when viewed together, forces us to consider a more radical possibility, that these two sites are not independent creations at all. They appear to be the product of the same specific and now lost school of engineering. Whether this connection was the result of direct contact between ancient Chinese and Japanese cultures, or whether they both inherited this knowledge from a much older, common source, remains an open question. But the link is undeniable. Oya is not alone. Its twin exists, and together they form a powerful testament to a shared, forgotten past. This connection is startling, but it is only the first thread in a much larger tapestry. If we broaden our focus from the specific method of carving to the general problem of stoneworking on a massive scale, we find that Oya fits into another, even older, global mystery. The story of humanity's ancient past is written in stone. From the pyramids of Egypt to the monoliths of Stonehenge, our ancestors demonstrated a remarkable ability to quarry, transport, and assemble colossal blocks of rock, creating structures that continue to baffle engineers today. We often focus on the mystery of construction. How did they lift these massive stones into place? But we sometimes forget the other side of that coin, the equally profound mystery of excavation. Before a single block could be lifted, it first had to be cut from the living rock of a quarry and transported, often over great distances. This is where the mystery of Oya connects to the wider world of megalithic engineering. While Oya is a story of removal rather than construction, the fundamental challenge is the same: the management of an almost unbelievable tonnage of stone using supposedly primitive means. The millions of tons of volcanic tuff removed from the Oya mountain represent a logistical feat on the same order of magnitude as the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is estimated to be composed of over 2 million blocks of stone, weighing a total of some 6 million tons. The ancient Egyptians, we are told, used copper chisels, stone hammers, and immense manpower to cut these blocks from quarries miles away. The Japanese miners of Oya supposedly used simple iron pickaxes. In both cases, the official explanation asks us to accept that a monumental result was achieved through a process of staggering inefficiency. To truly appreciate this connection, we must travel to the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon, to the ancient site of Baalbek. Here, beneath the ruins of a grand Roman temple, lies a stone platform that is one of the greatest engineering enigmas on the planet. The foundation of this platform is made of several massive limestone blocks, the most famous of which are known as the trilithon. Each of these 3 stones is nearly 20 meters long, over 4 meters high, and is estimated to weigh around 800 tons. They are the largest building blocks used in any ancient structure on Earth. For perspective, 800 tons is the equivalent of about 600 cars, all in a single solid piece of rock. How these stones were quarried and moved into place remains a complete mystery. Even our largest modern mobile cranes would struggle with such a weight. But the mystery deepens. In a nearby quarry a short distance away lie even larger stones that were, for some reason, never moved. One is the famous stone of the pregnant woman, which weighs an astonishing 1,000 tons. In recent years, archaeologists have discovered 2 more, even larger blocks nearby, with the biggest weighing an almost incomprehensible 1,650 tons. These stones were perfectly cut and shaped, ready for transport, but were left behind, silent testaments to an ambition and a capability that defies all explanation. The mystery of Baalbek is the ultimate expression of the ancient quarrying problem, and it is here that the connection to Oya becomes clear. Both sites represent the 2 extremes of a single engineering challenge. Baalbek shows us the quarrying of impossibly large individual blocks. Oya shows us the removal of an impossibly large total volume. Both sites push the known limits of their respective historical periods. Both force us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that our ancestors possessed a knowledge of stoneworking and logistics that far surpassed what we read in our history books. When we see the scale of the material removed from Oya, we are looking at the same fundamental puzzle as Baalbek, just expressed differently. It's a question of tonnage, of logistics, of manpower, and of a profound disconnect between the result and the supposed method. It suggests that Oya is not just a local quarrying anomaly. It is a Japanese chapter in the global story of megalithic engineering, a story whose most important pages appear to be missing. This then leads us to the most fundamental question of all. If ancient peoples around the world were performing these seemingly impossible feats of engineering, how did they do it? Were they simply masters of forgotten manual techniques, or did they possess a form of lost technology? When faced with mysteries like Oya, Longyu, and Baalbek, the debate inevitably splits into 2 main camps, each offering a very different explanation for how these wonders were achieved. The first and more conservative argument is the lost technique hypothesis. This theory posits that our ancestors did not possess any advanced machinery or exotic power sources. Instead, they had a profound and intimate understanding of the materials they were working with, combined with an almost limitless supply of time and manpower. They were, in this view, the ultimate masters of simple mechanics, leverage, and patience. Proponents of this theory suggest that we, in our modern world of instant gratification and powerful machines, have lost the ability to appreciate what can be accomplished through slow, incremental, and highly coordinated manual labor. They might argue that the uniform tool marks at Oya and Longyu were not made by a machine, but by a highly disciplined workforce trained for years to use their tools in a specific rhythmic way, creating a consistent pattern through sheer skill and repetition. They might suggest that the massive stones of Baalbek were moved using thousands of men, enormous wooden sledges, vast earthen ramps, and a level of social organization that we can barely comprehend today. In this view, there is no need to invoke any high technology. The magic ingredient was not a lost device, but a lost mindset, a willingness to devote entire generations to a single monumental task. This is a compelling and respectable argument. It honors the ingenuity and perseverance of our ancestors. However, for many, it simply doesn't go far enough. The scale and precision of these sites seem to demand something more than just clever techniques and hard work. This brings us to the second, more controversial camp, the lost technology hypothesis. Now it is crucial to clarify what we mean by technology. This does not automatically imply spaceships or laser beams. A technology is simply the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. It could be something far more subtle, a form of physics or chemistry that our modern science has either overlooked or not yet rediscovered. One of the most intriguing possibilities revolves around the use of sound and vibration. We have already noted the strange acoustic properties of the Oya caves. Could this be a clue? There are persistent legends in cultures around the world of sound being used as a tool. Tales from ancient Tibet describe monks levitating heavy stone blocks, using the focused sound of giant horns and group chanting. Engineers today are exploring the use of ultrasonic frequencies to cut and drill materials with incredible precision. Is it possible that the builders of Oya and Longyu had mastered a form of sonic technology, using specific frequencies to resonate with the stone, causing it to fracture or soften along precise lines? This could explain the uniform tool marks far more elegantly than manual labor. It would be a technology, but one based on principles of acoustics, not brute force. Another possibility lies in the realm of chemistry. Could the ancients have possessed knowledge of a chemical substance that could temporarily soften or even dissolve stone? The legend of a plant in the Amazon rainforest whose juices could turn rock into a soft, clay-like substance has been told by explorers for centuries. At megalithic sites in Peru like Sacsayhuaman, we see massive polygonal stones that fit together so perfectly without mortar that you cannot slip a piece of paper between them. Some researchers have theorized that these stones were not cut with such impossible precision, but were rather molded into place using some kind of stone softening agent. Could a similar technology have been used at Oya, allowing the builders to scrape away the rock in smooth, uniform layers, as if they were carving clay? This, too, would be a lost technology, one based on geology and chemistry. The greatest challenge for the lost technology hypothesis, of course, is the complete lack of physical evidence. No strange sonic devices or chemical containers have ever been found at these sites. But then, if a technology was based on perishable materials like wood, or on a process that left no residue, we might not expect to find any traces. The debate between lost technique and lost technology is at the heart of the mystery. But regardless of which side you lean towards, both possibilities force us to radically reconsider the capabilities of the ancient world. They suggest a depth of knowledge, whether of social organization or of physical science, that our history books have largely ignored. This brings us to our final and most profound question. We have seen a startling visual connection between Oya and Longyu. We have seen a logistical connection between Oya and the great megalithic sites of the world. And we have explored the debate over how these feats were accomplished. When you put all these pieces together on a global map, a stunning pattern begins to emerge. Are all of these incredible, unexplained engineering marvels in Japan, China, Lebanon, Egypt, Peru truly just a series of remarkable coincidences? Is it plausible that so many different, unconnected cultures all independently developed the knowledge to perform seemingly impossible feats of stonework, and that all of them, in many cases, somehow forgot to write it down? The theory of coincidence begins to feel increasingly strained. This leads us to a tantalizing and epic possibility that we are not looking at a series of independent mysteries, but at the scattered fragments of a single global mystery. Could we be seeing the faint echoes of a shared blueprint? A body of advanced engineering knowledge that was once present in the ancient world? The idea of a global blueprint does not necessarily mean a single, globe-spanning empire like Atlantis. The connection could have been more subtle. It might have been a body of knowledge, a sacred science of engineering, that was passed down through elite guilds of builders or secret societies that traveled between cultures, sharing their expertise. These master builders might have adapted their core techniques to the local materials and needs, creating the variety of styles we see today, but all stemming from a common source of knowledge. Alternatively, the blueprint could be the legacy of a much older, forgotten progenitor culture. In this scenario, a highly advanced civilization from a remote period of prehistoric, perhaps the era before the last ice age, was wiped out by a global cataclysm, but fragments of its scientific knowledge managed to survive. Later cultures like the ancient Egyptians, the Chinese, and the builders of Oya would be the inheritors of this broken, fragmented knowledge, able to replicate some of the incredible engineering feats but without a full understanding of the science behind them. This could explain why they were able to build these wonders, but were unable to document the process. They were following a set of instructions, a blueprint, whose origin they themselves did not know. When we stand in the Oya caves, we are potentially standing inside a key piece of evidence for this global phenomenon. The caves, when viewed in isolation, are a fascinating local mystery. But when seen as part of this worldwide pattern of unexplained engineering, their significance grows immeasurably. They cease to be just a strange Japanese quarry and become a crucial data point in the greatest archaeological puzzle of all, the true story of our own forgotten past. The silent, grooved walls of Oya may be speaking a language we have yet to fully understand, telling a story not just of Japan, but of the entire human family. We have walked through the official story of the Oya caves, and we have seen the deep cracks that run through its foundation. The sheer volume, the baffling precision, the historical silence, and the global parallels all combine to create a compelling case that we are looking at something far more significant than a simple stone quarry. We have moved beyond the what and the where, and are now faced with the most fundamental and difficult questions of all. Who and why? When the established historical narrative fails to provide satisfactory answers, we are forced to step into the realm of theory. This is where the investigation becomes a true exploration of possibilities, a journey through different lenses to try and make sense of the impossible. Each theory offers a different path, a different story to explain the existence of this vast, subterranean world. We will now explore these theories, starting with the most grounded and moving towards the most speculative, in an attempt to find a narrative that finally fits the monumental evidence carved into the stone. Our first stop is a theory that doesn't completely discard the official story, but rather reimagines it, giving far more credit to the skills of the past. This first hypothesis, which we can call the advanced quarry theory, is the most conservative of our explanations. It holds onto the core idea that the Oya caves were, in fact, created for the purpose of extracting stone. It does not invoke lost technologies or secret societies. Instead, it proposes a simple, yet profound, adjustment to the official narrative, that the ancient builders were not just hard-working laborers, but were true masters of engineering whose skills and organizational abilities far surpassed what modern historians typically attribute to them. In this view, the problem is not with the evidence at Oya, but with our own modern arrogance. We tend to view the past through a lens of technological superiority, assuming that anyone without computers, engines, and advanced metallurgy must have been primitive. This theory challenges that assumption directly. It suggests that the uniform tool marks were not the result of a machine, but of an incredibly disciplined and highly specialized guild of miners. Imagine a system, passed down from master to apprentice for generations, where every aspect of the quarrying process was perfected and standardized. Every worker would be trained from a young age to use their tools in a precise, almost ritualistic way. Their movements would become second nature, a form of muscle memory that would allow them to strike the stone with a consistent rhythm and angle, creating the uniform patterns we see today. It would be a testament not to a lost machine, but to a lost level of human discipline and craftsmanship. This theory also addresses the issue of scale. While the volume of stone removed is staggering, the advanced quarry hypothesis argues that we underestimate the power of long-term, highly organized collective effort. A well-managed project, sustained over centuries with a clear goal and a stable workforce, could indeed achieve monumental results. The builders would have developed sophisticated, albeit non-mechanized, methods for logistics. Perhaps they used a complex system of wooden ramps, levers, and counterweights to move the heavy blocks. Perhaps they even utilized water, flooding certain sections to help float the stone out on rafts. These are techniques that would leave little or no archaeological evidence behind, especially after centuries have passed. The absence of detailed records could be explained by the nature of such craft guilds. This knowledge may have been a closely guarded trade secret, passed down orally from master to apprentice, never intended to be written down for outsiders. The guild would have been the repository of the knowledge, and with the decline of the quarrying industry, the guild and its secrets simply faded away. In this light, Oya is not a mystery of technology, but a monument to a forgotten human potential. It stands as a powerful reminder that there are other forms of genius besides the technological one we value so highly today. It celebrates a mastery of planning, organization, and physical skill that has been lost to our modern machine-dependent world. The advanced quarry theory is elegant, logical, and it avoids any leaps into speculative territory. It is a very plausible explanation, and for many, it provides a satisfying resolution to the puzzle. And yet, for some, it still feels incomplete. While it accounts for the skill and scale, it struggles to fully explain the why behind the design. If the only goal was to efficiently extract stone, why create such vast cathedral-like halls? Why the sense of architecture? The sheer grandeur of the space seems to hint at a purpose beyond mere utility. This lingering question of why leads us to our second theory, one that suggests the quarrying was not the primary goal at all, but was merely a cover for something far more secretive and important. This second theory proposes that the Oya caves had a secret secondary purpose. In this scenario, the extraction of stone was real, but it was a byproduct or perhaps a convenient disguise for the creation of a massive, hidden underground facility. The public face of the operation was a quarry, supplying a valuable and well-known building material. This provided a perfect, logical reason for the constant activity, the large workforce, and the massive removal of stone. It was a cover story that was not only plausible but profitable. But the true reason for all this effort, according to this theory, was the space itself. What kind of secret facility would require such a colossal and hidden location? The possibilities are as fascinating as they are varied. One of the most compelling ideas is that Oya was a secret military installation, an underground fortress or a massive strategic arsenal. Japan's history, particularly during the Sengoku or Warring States period that preceded the Edo era, was one of constant conflict between powerful clans. A secure, hidden location to store weapons, armor, and food supplies, or even to garrison troops, would have been an invaluable strategic asset. An underground fortress would be virtually impregnable to attack and invisible to enemy spies. The vast halls could have served as barracks, training grounds, and stables, while the labyrinth of tunnels would create a defensible maze. Another related possibility is that it was a secret treasury. A powerful shogun or a wealthy clan might have commissioned the complex to store their immense riches, gold, silver, and other priceless treasures safe from rivals and thieves. The quarrying operation would provide the perfect cover, explaining the presence of guards and the heavily restricted access to the site. The immense scale would be a deliberate security feature, designed to intimidate and to make finding the true location of the treasure vault within the vast complex nearly impossible. But the secret purpose might not have been military or financial. It could have been religious or ceremonial. Perhaps Oya was a massive secret temple, an underground pilgrimage site for a religious sect that was persecuted or wished to practice its rituals in private. Many ancient religions have traditions of subterranean worship, believing that caves and underground spaces are powerful spiritual portals, places where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds is thin. The grand, cathedral-like halls and the strange acoustic properties would be perfectly suited for large-scale ceremonies, chanting, and religious rites. The uniform tool marks in this context might not be a sign of industrial efficiency, but a form of ritualistic carving, a sacred pattern meant to imbue the walls with spiritual power. This theory elegantly explains many of the site's anomalies. The immense scale is no longer just for extracting stone. It's for creating a functional hidden world. The careful architectural design is no longer a puzzle. It's a necessity for a space meant for habitation or ceremony. The historical silence is no longer an oversight. It's a deliberate act of secrecy, essential for protecting the true purpose of the site. The quarrying of Oya stone becomes the most brilliant part of the Plana cover story that paid for itself. This theory is deeply compelling because it aligns so well with the human history of secrets, power, and belief. Throughout history, rulers and groups have gone to extraordinary lengths to build hidden places for strategic or sacred purposes. The idea that Oya could be a Japanese example of such a clandestine project is not only plausible but also deeply intriguing. It transforms the site from a simple industrial space into a place of hidden drama and untold stories. And yet, this theory is still anchored within the known timeline of Japanese history. It assumes the caves were built during the Edo period or shortly before. But what if that core assumption is wrong? What if the caves are far, far older than we think? This question leads us to our third and most radical theory. This is where we take our boldest leap, questioning the very foundation of the official timeline. This theory proposes that the Oya caves, or at least the oldest and deepest parts of them, are not a product of the last few centuries. It suggests that they are a prehistoric relic, a remnant of a lost, advanced civilization that existed in Japan long before the dawn of its recorded history. In this view, the miners of the Edo period did not create the caves. They discovered them. They stumbled upon a pre-existing, ancient underground complex and simply repurposed it, expanding upon the original structure to quarry the valuable stone. This would explain why they were able to achieve such a massive scale so quickly. They were given an incredible head start. This theory immediately resolves some of the deepest paradoxes of Oya. The advanced engineering and precision of the tool marks are no longer an anomaly of the 17th century. They are the signature of a far more ancient and technologically sophisticated culture. The historical silence is also explained. There are no records of its construction in Japanese history because it was built before Japanese history, as we know it, began. The Edo period Japanese would have had no knowledge of its true origins, and may have even created their own myths and legends to explain the strange, ancient place they had found. Who could have built such a place in the remote past? This theory opens the door to the fascinating and controversial subject of Japan's prehistoric cultures, particularly the Jomon period. The Jomon people are one of the oldest known ceramic-producing cultures in the world, flourishing in Japan from as early as 13,000 BC up until around 300 BC. Traditionally, they have been viewed as simple hunter-gatherers. However, recent archaeological discoveries have begun to paint a much more complex picture. The Jaman built large, settled communities, created sophisticated and deeply symbolic pottery, and even constructed large-scale ritual structures, such as the Oyu stone circles in northern Japan. Could a branch of the Jaman, or perhaps an even older as yet unknown culture, have possessed the social organization and the engineering knowledge to create the Oya complex? Proponents of this theory would point to other megalithic structures around the world that are now being dated to a much earlier period than previously thought, such as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is over 11,000 years old. They argue for the existence of a lost chapter in human history, a period of advanced civilization in the prehistoric era that was wiped out by a global cataclysm, such as the sudden climate change at the end of the last ice age. The Oya caves in this epic narrative would be one of the few surviving monuments from this lost world. It would have been built for a purpose we can only guess at, perhaps as a shelter from that ancient cataclysm, an underground ark designed to preserve knowledge and life. Or maybe it was a center for a forgotten science, a place of power connected to the energies of the earth itself. This theory is, without a doubt, the most speculative. It requires us to discard our conventional understanding of prehistory and embrace the possibility of a past far more advanced and mysterious than we have been taught. There is, as of yet, no direct archaeological evidence, such as carbon-dated artifacts, to prove a prehistoric origin for Oya. But the theory's power lies in its ability to provide a single elegant solution to all of the site's most profound mysteries. It transforms Oya from a Japanese puzzle into a potential key to unlocking a lost history of the entire human race. It is an idea that is as awe-inspiring as the caves themselves. Each of these theories offers a compelling lens through which to view the enigma of Oya. But as we sift through these possibilities, we are left with one final, haunting mystery defined not by what is there, but by what is not. We have explored theories of advanced craftsmanship, secret fortresses, and lost prehistoric civilizations. But all of them in the end must confront the same stark and silent fact. The Oya caves are empty. In a site of this age and scale, archaeologists would expect to find a wealth of artifacts, the debris of centuries of human activity. For a quarry that was supposedly active for 300 years, we should find countless broken tools, discarded pottery, the remains of lamps, pieces of clothing, and perhaps even the graves of workers who died on the job. If it were a secret military base or treasury, we might expect to find a lost weapon, a dropped coin, or the remnants of a fortified gate. If it were a prehistoric sanctuary, we would hope to find ritual objects, ceremonial altars, or ancient burials. But we find virtually nothing. The deepest, oldest-seeming parts of the complex are eerily clean, stripped of almost any trace of their creators. Of course, the areas open to the public have been cleaned and modified for tourism, but even in the less explored sections, the archaeological record is remarkably barren. It's as if the builders, whoever they were, packed up everything and vanished, taking all evidence of their existence with them. Why was the site abandoned so cleanly? This is perhaps the most unsettling question of all. Did the original builders complete their project and then deliberately and methodically scrub the site clean, sealing their secrets away forever? This would imply an intention to not be known, a desire for complete anonymity that is itself a profound statement. Or was the site abandoned in a hurry, not due to a slow decline, but because of a sudden and catastrophic event? Perhaps a massive earthquake made the caves unstable, forcing an immediate evacuation. Or maybe a plague or a war wiped out the very people who held the knowledge of this place, leaving it empty and silent for future generations to stumble upon. The emptiness is a mystery that transcends theory. It is a tangible void, a silence that speaks louder than any artifact. It leaves us in a state of profound uncertainty. We are left with a masterpiece of engineering without an artist's signature, a colossal stage without any actors, a grand story without a final chapter. The silence of Oya is the final, haunting mystery. It is a quiet reminder that for all our searching and all our theorizing, The true story of this place may be a secret that the stone itself will never give up. It hangs in the cold air, a question mark carved into the heart of a mountain, waiting forever for an answer that may never come. The Oya Caves stand as a powerful monument, caught between two worlds: the accepted history of a simple stone quarry, and the lingering mystery of an ancient engineering marvel. While the stones themselves cannot speak, the marks left upon them tell a story of immense effort and incredible precision. They remind us that sometimes the greatest secrets are not buried deep, but are hidden in plain sight. If the past still whispers to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ancient Relics Keeper, because some mysteries were never meant to be buried.